welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's Gaming Friday. I'm Gary.
And I may cough during this.
And today we are taking a look back at Vagrant Story, which came out on the 10th of February in the year 2000. Released on the Sony PlayStation. Developed by Square, which is now Square Enix.
Yeah.
And now I believe this game is now also available on the PlayStation 3 via the digital store, and I think they also eventually released a portable version. I think it was the PS Vita.
Yeah.
And this is an action role-playing game developed primarily by the team that made Final Fantasy Tactics. This is also a third person with a first-person camera view mode, said action role-playing game. The main protagonist is Ashley Riot, and this is a universe which is quite complex.
Right.
This is a deep and rich story that is told through beautiful cut sequences like this. Now, granted, this game at this point is 17 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say his lips are just moving while he's talking,
and there's of course no voice actors. It's all dialogue. But for me, it's like pixel comic book motion film.
Yeah.
And this was a game, obviously for the PlayStation 1, that for me was different to all other RPGs. It really did break the mold in terms of its storytelling, its action gameplay, and the fact that it's unique in the fact to other RPGs that there's no shops. You don't go to shopping vendors and buy items. There's not a single NPC that you can interact with.
Oh, okay.
It's all dungeons, then cut sequences, then the next level, and then a boss, and then lots more cut sequences. You don't get to choose any of the dialogue.
Right.
But the story kind of plays out to you. And the story for this game is, it's a Vagrant Story. It is incredibly complex. The gist of it is that the kingdom of Valendia is in civil war.
Right.
And there are lots of different factions all vying for power. And, you expect there to be a traditional sort of good guy, bad guy. Yeah. But bad guys can sometimes turn out to have good agendas, but doing horrible things to get to it.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so there's, almost has a Game of Thrones-esque kind of deepness to it, where you're playing this game, for me, feels like jumping in at Game of Thrones Season 3, where you don't know who the characters are, who's doing what, and at the very beginning of this game, one of the important manors is under siege and under fire, and you're like, who's attacking it? Who are these guys? Are these guards good ones? Are they here? Those are the church fighters. No, wait. That's the King's Guard. No, wait. So who's this other faction? Oh, they're the Peacekeepers. And it's
right, okay, yeah.
So, it's very complicated. But all of the characters in this game are really fleshed out. And they are memorable. Now, granted, it's been 17 years since I've ever played this game.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to remember bits and pieces of it. And it is a bit of a haze. Because I never finished this game.
Really?
This game kicked my ass. Left, right, sideways. This is an incredibly difficult game.
I'm looking at the tactics of fighting at the moment.
So Ian, have you ever seen this game before?
I'd seen a few people playing it in the past who were really massively into their RPGs, and at that point I wasn't. I found RPGs to be really boring, dragging out. I never liked the whole fighting aspect of you've got pause, do this, fight, pause, do
turn-based
that,
combat,
miss. Turn-based combat. You know, when I attack an enemy, I expect to hit it in one hit.
Yeah.
When you play an RPG, you hit it and it goes miss, and you're like, how the fuck did I miss? I'm stood right next to it. You know. But it was, over years of actually playing different sets of RPGs, you kind of get used to that. It's the background stories, it's the characters, it's the environments you go into. That's really the core of RPGs for me now. The combat systems, they come and go and they change. But this one did stand out for me because it was different. I'd seen Final Fantasy VII's fighting aspect where you would come across a monster, the screen would change, and you would be there turn-based going back and forth.
Yeah.
This one, there was no screen then. It was literally the two guys came running at you. You chose what limbs you were going to attack with. Yeah. You hit them, you killed them, and you moved on.
That's right, yes. Now, this game has, obviously the combat's in real time until you press the action button, which
Right.
is the attack button, and
Yeah.
obviously you get that bubble that comes up around you,
Yeah.
which is your attack range.
Okay.
And if you ever played Parasite Eve, you'll recognize that combat system is it's identical.
Yeah.
And the main difference is, well, I think it's very similar. Again, you choose the body parts that you want to attack.
Yeah.
Now, as you play the game, you'll kind of learn which enemies have different weaknesses or which limbs have certain weaknesses. There's sort of 3 main elements of attack,
Okay.
or weapons rather, and that is blunt weapons, piercing weapons, and edged weapons.
Right, okay.
Now, every enemy type will have different body armor on different places, which will be defensive against each one of those 3 stats.
Okay.
So if you've got an enemy that's wearing all blunt protective armor,
Yeah.
and you're hitting him with an edged weapon, you'll do more damage. But if you're hitting that blunt guy with a blunt weapon,
You're not
you're
gonna do that
going to do
much.
any damage, and he's going to tear you to pieces, and he will kill you. He will defeat you because
Yeah.
you will lose unless you find out which body part perhaps isn't wearing blunt protection.
What's with that guy's fingers?
Yeah, he kind of looks like he's got a twisted claw hands.
Yeah.
But again, graphically, yeah, this game's not on par with today's releases. But at the same time, I can look at this game and look at this art design and go, if this came out today,
Yeah.
would people look at this and go, wow, this looks interesting as an art style, or would they go, oh, this just looks dated and horrible?
I'd say you're looking at this thinking it's dated and horrible, you know. But we are, like we said, this is the PlayStation 1 we're playing it on.
Yeah.
You know, if they upgrade it slightly for PlayStation 3, slight touch up on the corners here and there, you know, it would definitely look good. And with this opening sequence, you're getting drawn into the story. Who's the guy with the brown hair? He's the main character. He's just shot this guy in the chest with a fucking arrow, and he's got back up without even...
And who's this boy who's now being dragged off?
Somebody's just being dragged off. So you're really getting into the story within the first 5 minutes of the game's cut sequence opening.
Well, there's a lot of cut sequences throughout the game. There's so many. I mean, you come across other characters. Like I said, there's no NPC interaction, so when you do come across other characters, it just plays out into a cutscene, which either ends in a fight, or it leaves you in an empty room afterwards because all those characters leave the room.
Yeah.
This game had a lot cut from it. Apparently, the more than 50% of the story was cut from the final game, including additional sort of NPC characters that would turn up halfway through the game and continue to fight alongside you.
Okay.
So that you would kind of have followers, I guess.
Yeah.
But all of that was cut as well, and it was all due to time restraints and the processing power of the PlayStation just wasn't quite up to snuff, and so they said
dragon.
they felt that it was incomplete. But anybody who played this game would it all feels there. I guess there could have been more fleshed out. Maybe a lot more to do with the main protagonist of Ashley Riot, because throughout the game you kind of get memories, but you can't quite recall whether they are your memories or whether your memories have changed,
Right. Okay.
or whether your perspective of your memories has changed. But the gist of it, I believe, is that Ashley Riot, he was a normal man, had a wife and child, who were both murdered in front of him.
Harsh.
And now he's just this stoic, soulless, peacekeeper in a way. I think they're called risk breakers in this universe. And he's pretty much doing the good job of trying to... Well, in this game, he's trying to unravel the conspirators and the plots, basically, to overthrow the governments and the religious aspects.
Yeah.
All the while exploring, I think it's Le Monde, and uncovering the darkness and the creatures and monsters and magic that lies underneath this massive city.
Yeah.
So, right now I think this is just a simple boss encounter.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that you got two hits in before he attacked you back.
Yes.
So you've got the advantage. You've got the advantage slightly there that as long as you know the controls, you know what you're aiming for, you can maneuver yourself and do some damage to the boss before he builds up his bar and goes to attack you back.
Of course, you can't see when the enemy's about to make its attack. You can't really see how much hit points it has left, but when you are targeting limbs, you can sort of see what type it is and how much percentage chance you have to hit that body part as well.
Nice.
So you can kind of try and gauge it. The game does get a lot more complex with its fighting style in later combats, which you need to master as well in order to win, and that is chain attacks.
Right.
And it kind of turns the game into a bit of a rhythm game, because a little exclamation mark pops up on the screen, and that's when you need to hit the attack button again, and then you'll get an extra attack.
Nice.
And an extra attack, and an extra attack. So it's one way of your one attack basically being able to hit, 8+ times, depending on your rhythm timing. Now, every enemy and every weapon that you use has different timings for its attacks.
Right.
So you will end up spending a lot of time with one weapon, changing it, and then realizing that your rhythm's gone because you need to learn the new attack pattern. There's also there's break art, I think it's called.
Okay.
Which basically you have to know when to use it, because you will suffer an HP loss in order to buff your attacks. So you kind of, as a risk breaker, you kind of have to gauge when's the time to go low HP to do more damage.
Yes, yeah.
Now, as a risk breaker as well, there is you're going to die a lot in this game. The games makers decided that before Dark Souls, this was Dark Souls of RPGs, where you will make mistakes. You might get halfway through the game and realize you've made some big mistakes, and you need to start the whole game over again because you've trapped yourself into a corner. Basically, you'll find weapons and items which are all fine and good on their own. You'll compare them to the other weapons you've got. If you go to you're fighting a different enemy type, you'll find you'll need to go into your inventory and change all of your gear and weapons. You can also craft new weapons and combine existing weapons together to get new stats.
Nice.
Now, not only do weapons have blunt, piercing, and edged, but there's different weapons for fighting humans, for fighting monsters, for fighting undead, for fighting, all the different types of monsters that are in the game.
Right.
So not only do you have to make sure your weapon is up against the right class of enemy you're fighting, but also is able to get past that class of enemy's armor type.
Wow.
And so if you get into a point where you don't have the right gear to fight that certain monster, start the game again. Or make sure you've got saves along the way to make sure that you'll be okay.
That's pretty in depth, and at the same time, I mean, when the PlayStation came out, the internet wasn't out yet, so you were waiting for magazines. So this would have been the type of game that you either played and learnt, or played and was like, this is too much, and stopped.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I must have gotten at least 3/4 of the way through the game before it was at that point where I was like, I can't do anything to this boss. I don't have the right weapons. I'm going to start over. There's also, there's a couple of bosses or end level bosses that when you defeat, because there's no leveling up in this game. You don't level up.
What?
Yes, that's right. You find new weapons and items by exploring the secret rooms to get those weapons and items to combine to your existing weapons to make them better. That's how you get better.
Okay.
You get new armor and weapons, which will adjust how much magic, damage, and health you have.
Right, okay.
As well as you'll also find grimoires, which are spells. Obviously, one of the first ones you'll find is a healing spell.
Yeah.
Finding more grimoires will give you more abilities. Obviously, the chain abilities and break art abilities, I believe, do level up the more you use them.
Oh, okay.
But this game also has it's one of the major game mechanisms of the game, and it's called risk.
Right.
Now, underneath the health bar, when we get back into the game in a minute, you'll see that there's a risk bar.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as combat starts, that risk bar starts counting up. If you start taking hits, the risk bar counts up. If you start hitting enemies, the risk bar counts up. The higher that risk bar goes, the less damage you will do, the less chance to hit the enemies you'll have, and the more damage those enemies will do to you.
Wow, okay.
So the longer the fight goes on, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah.
Now, there are then items or weapons that form and do better damage and have better stats when your risk is really high.
Oh, what?
So again, all in the name of the character, the risk breaker is like how you have to walk the line between being nearly dead to being able to do the most damage you can do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, do I try and keep the risk low and keep HP high and do the fights this way? But no, you cannot do it that way.
Damn.
The game rewards you for playing on the edge, for being a risk breaker.
Okay. Jesus.
So again, that just adds to this game's difficulty. Again, when they made the game, they intended it for being a core audience. They knew they were targeting a core RPG audience.
Yeah.
That didn't want to need walkthrough guides. They didn't want to hold your hand at all.
Yeah.
And this is one of the earliest games I can think of that really did that and achieved it.
Well, that's what I mean. When I was younger, there was only a few people who were playing this.
Yes.
You know, and if I remember rightly, a couple of them were like, "This game is stupidly hard."
It is really hard. Now they tried to extend the game's kind of design by, obviously you have the fights, you have the story bits, but then there's one other feature that, you know, this is one of the things that the Legacy of Kain series of games with the Raziel type of games is block puzzles. Block moving puzzles. You come into a big room and there's a bunch of platforms and levers and blocks that you have to pick up, walk around, put them in place, jump over, activate the switch, jump over, move that block over to there, rinse and repeat. And there's a lot of them. And there's also moving platforms that you have to jump across as well.
Oh, wow.
It's those things, you know, when you're replaying the game, as I've just been replaying now, those moments are really annoying.
I was going to say, it sounds really tedious because, I mean, a lot of my favourite RPGs, the puzzles are pretty self-explanatory. They go, oh, you can't go ahead because you need this certain type of book. Then you go and speak to somebody, they give you a hint, you go find the book, you pick up the book, you take it to the guy, he lets you go into the next area. That's most of the puzzles you get to do. Actually, getting into a really tough battle, not gaining anything from it after winning that battle, and then being thrust into a room where you got to move a bunch of fucking blocks around just to get to the next room to fight the next boss, I'd be like, the end of this game would have to be so fundamentally brilliant for me to look over all of those other issues to say that's the main reason why you should play Vagrant Story.
Yeah. Well, the game does have a game plus, a new game plus when you complete it. Okay. Which basically means you get to keep all of your weapons and stats and play through the game again. Yeah. And obviously it should be much easier on a second playthrough.
I'm going to say no.
Well, I mean, it probably is. But at least on the second playthrough, you might be able to get through the game a lot quicker and then enjoy all of the story moments and the character pieces.
I suppose you'd know how the puzzles work then, and then you're using the badass weapons to take out the bosses.
And so it should be easier. Now, there's another feature that the game does is that every sort of main stage boss, when you defeat them, it's kind of like a slot machine where a bunch of random stats will move across the screen really quickly, and you just press the B button to stop.
Right, okay.
And it'll be +1 intelligence, +2 strength, +3 magic or whatever, and it'll just be, you know, roulette going around until you stop the button. It'll be like, congratulations, you have +2 strength. That's, you know, that's kind of game's random way of leveling you up. But the thing is, and that's what also stopped me, was that when you finally defeat a boss, and then the game rewards you and gives you a thing, and then it goes, here's +1 intelligence. And you're like, but that's terrible. I saw a +5 intelligence going past. So what you do is reload the game again, and try and fight the boss to get a better end level power up.
Yeah, but what does this? I mean, okay, I assume that the strength allows you to hit harder and do more damage, right? Yeah. But doesn't that kind of make it obsolete when your weapons are just going to be better anyway?
Well, it's just a small permanent buff to your character.
Right, okay. Intelligence, I'm assuming you use that for magic, right? But if the magic's not getting any more damage from it, you're just able to make it faster? Launch the spells faster?
And further. Yeah, like I said, it's complicated. So I'm just going to quickly show you through some of the items here. So you can see that you've got weapon type, shield types, left arms, right arms. You can see the human, beast, undead, phantom, dragons, and evil, all the different weapon types.
Right, yeah.
And also wearing a shield on the other arm. It's there is a lot of this menu navigation in this game.
Is there a load limit?
There is also a load limit to how many items you can carry.
Oh, what fucking bullshit is that? You can carry 7 different weapons just to take on. You can only carry
so many weapons and so many magic healing items and save points and storage chests. You know, typical Resident Evil storage chest, but anything in this chest, access this chest anywhere else, you'll find the stuff that you're carrying. They are few and far between, and you will often or not find a save point before a boss door.
Oh my god.
You won't always know when you're walking into a boss door either.
Oh my god.
And so yes, you will die, and you will go back to your last save and make your way through the whole dungeon again to get to the boss again. And of course, enemies respawn in the rooms that you clear as well.
What the fuck? I mean, I really want somebody to tell me that this game's story is the greatest fucking story ever, because this game doesn't... It's not that the game doesn't sound appealing. I'd happily play this game, but if there's nothing at the end of it to make me enjoy what I've just gone through...
I think there is a real appreciation for enjoying the game's alternate way of doing combat, not having the leveling up system and just grinding monsters. What you'll do is grind fights in this game to see if they'll drop more interesting weapons.
Yeah, but that's all fine and stuff. But I mean, I've played better RPGs.
Yeah,
the Xenoblade Chronicles saga on the Wii and the Wii U. That was enjoyable. The story for the second one wasn't that brilliant, but you knew what you were getting, and you knew where the boss was because it was the big fucking huge creature in front of you.
Yeah, but those were... I don't want to say they're simplistic, but they really kind of are. Like, you know who the bad guy is. Like, you can see, even if the bad guy hasn't revealed himself in most RPGs, you can look at him and go, that's the bad guy.
Well, yeah, I know the bad guy in this one. He was the guy who pulled the arrow out of his chest.
Or is he?
Well, I'm assuming he is either that or he works for the big bad guy.
Or does he?
Well, okay, yeah, I see your point. But there's a skill to RPGs as well, and for me, this one seems like you said with Dark Souls.
Yeah,
you'd have to go through this game. You'd have to slog your way through the first time.
Yes,
to enjoy it the second time.
But I think when you're playing through the game and you kind of learn what the game has set up for you, the way the crafting system works, the way the encounters work, the rhythm timing of the combat, it really gets you into it. You'll feel accomplished, and it is a rewarding experience.
Yeah,
knowing that you're mastering an otherwise difficult game.
And that's all great, but we're talking about a game that's been out for 17 years.
Yeah.
You said it's been out for 17 years. Only a few people have properly worked their way through it, but I haven't actually heard anything say the greatest story out there was Vagrant Story.
It's not the greatest, but it is a great story filled with great moments, and it could have been even greater if there wasn't so much that possibly was cut.
Yes, but there's also a high chance that they did too much with it. You could have left the puzzles out.
Maybe someone left some of the puzzles out, but then it would have maybe been too samey. Having at least some of the puzzles in there just to break up the monotony of fight after fight.
But on top of that, there's no guarantee, like you said, there's no guarantee you're going to get good stuff after a struggling boss battle.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to load it up and fight that boss all over again just to get this good stuff to complete it your first time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, on top of that, you've also just said to me that if I get halfway through the game and realise I don't have a particular weapon, I might as well start all over again.
Yeah. Yes. Because you need to make sure you've got at least one of each type of weapon and something that's good against each type of enemy.
Right, okay. Any other good selling points?
The fact that it is all of the locations in this game are all inspired by real life locations in France. A lot of the cathedrals and city buildings and streets, all very much inspired by real locations. And I love the art style of this game. That was the major thing that attracted me to it, is that it looked different to all the other RPGs. Even though it kind of played the same-ish, it looked and sounded different. Also really loved the music in the game, the soundscape. Considering there's no voices, there's grunts and moans of characters when they get hit.
Yeah.
But other than that, the music is great. The story is intriguing. I like the main character. It's a complicated, different, and not so intuitive game mechanics, which just set it apart from all the other types of RPGs that were out there. When the games makers made this game, they didn't want it to easily fit one niche of genre of game.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be its own genre. And I'm kind of sad that this game never got a sequel.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Because it's fucking hard.
That doesn't stop it getting sequels.
Well, it does if nobody fucking wants
Demon Souls got sequels.
Yeah, but everybody... But the difference between that is that Demon Souls was known as hard, and there was only a few people that actually played it, and they went around and they told everybody that they should play it. So people started playing Demon Souls, and it started to sell. It did... Imagine you got halfway through Demon Souls or Dark Souls, you went to face a boss that you didn't even realise was behind the door, and it went, ha! You haven't got that sword that you should have picked up fucking 7 hours ago.
Yeah.
So you everything you've done with your character is now a waste. You have to start all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, maybe they should have made a sequel and just simplified it a little bit, taken away some of the elements that turned people away from the first game.
Maybe.
You know, I'm more experienced now with RPGs, and I could probably go, right, okay, yeah, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play this. But I would educate myself first before I walked into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's got to be plenty of walkthrough guides and tutorials and things out there now, so that you can look at a rough guide and go, at this point in the game, you need to specialize in these types of weapons for these types of enemies in preparation for this boss that's coming down the line. So you can help you actually get through the game. If I could just turn this camera so I can see where he is, so I can behind those boxes. But I still recommend this game. This game actually has a cult following. You know, it's the people that played the game at its release.
No, don't get me wrong. I understand games have cult followings. I like the way that you recommend a game that you haven't completed yet.
Well, yes, it's because I've never forgotten this game. This game has stayed with me forever.
Because it's a smear on your gaming history that you never completed it.
But it's also a game that I still remember fondly. As much as I've had my frustrations with the game, they are minimal compared to how much I've enjoyed spending time with this game and learning, or relearning game mechanics that you thought you were a master of.
I've seen you get frustrated. I would love to see you play through this.
I played through Final Fantasy VII, defeated all the ultimate weapons, magic weapons, ruby weapons, and whatnot. No problem.
And I was going to bring that up actually with something like Emerald Weapon underneath the ocean in Final Fantasy
Beating
VII.
that, can't beat this.
You had to be able to beat that. You had to be prepared. You had to steal the right defensive stuff off of certain people at certain moments. You needed to you had to be leveled all the way up before you even questioned about looking at Emerald Weapon.
Yeah.
You were lucky if you got the lucky 7 strike and just beat the shit out of him constantly. But that, like I said, that was all preparation.
Yeah.
You prepared yourself before you went and faced that. Something like this. Like I said, I'm not maybe experienced enough with this game that people will probably school me now in the comment section, but I want to know, even if you learn everything and prepare yourself, does it even get a payoff at the end? Do you, once you have completed,
I think it's the self-satisfaction of knowing that you've completed the game, that you've experienced the whole story.
Sometimes that's not enough. Even for me personally, that's not enough. I'm happy to complete a game, but I want to be that character.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, I'm happy I've completed that game because it was so hard, because I've modified my character in a way that he is me now in game form.
Right.
Agent fucking Riot. He's not. You are just playing him. And the game is choosing everything for you and putting you into a position that by the end of the game, after all the story is turned around, you're like a casual reader. You've just read a really, really epic story. But
for the story, yes, but for the gameplay, you cannot be casual about it.
No. I'm not saying that. But you aren't. The game is forcing you to do stuff. It's like you said, you don't have that weapon, start again. You're like, well, how did I know I was supposed to get that weapon? Oh, well, we gave you enough hints in that. Oh, we didn't, did we? No.
Well, what they do, by the enemy types that you're fighting, you'll see what their weaknesses are. So just being prepared for every eventuality, that you'll be covered.
But like I said, but you're getting all these eventualities in to keep Agent Riot alive.
Yeah.
You are not keeping them...
So he can uncover the truth about the civil unrest, the conspiracies, the murders, the magic, the monsters,
but you're
and his own history.
And you're just a casual observer. So by the end of this game, that stuff better be monumentally fucking groundbreaking for you to sit back and go, I really enjoyed that game. It was really hard, but the story was really well. Those twists and turns were really paid off. And by the end of it, it's at least one of the greatest RPGs out there. I don't think it is. I think it's good and it's difficult and it's a challenge for people to approach with. But by the end of the game, you probably sit there and go, I've seen the story in better places.
Of all the games that I've seen people praise or give recognition to forgotten games or games that this is my number one pick for the most forgotten, overlooked game. I think that people could still pick up this game and replay it and experience the difficulty and the pleasure of this game, without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. It's not a bad thing. I don't want people to hate on me for it. I just, there's just too many variables that point towards it being too much.
Yeah.
Just too much for what it's trying to do.
Which is fair. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. I just want to say thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. We're back next Friday with another video game. With another video game. Yeah. Of course, film reviews on Thursdays. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Patreon. Now, I kind of, while I was doing the closing, I'm looking at this room, and I'm like, I remember this room. And of course, you can't destroy the white blocks. You need to destroy the wooden blocks.
Yeah.
Now, if I remember rightly, the door up here, if I pull this lever, I think it's on a timer. And I think it gives you 2 seconds to get through the door before it closes again. I'm just gonna check. Let me just check.
Fuck?
Let me just check.
Really?
Yeah. Pull lever. Right. Go.
One,
No. The door's closing.
two.
It took 3 seconds. Let. No. Didn't get through the door.
What the fuck? Seriously? You're going to praise a game that gives you 3 seconds to get through
Like
a
I
door?
said, this is not even a puzzle, but there are bigger contraptions like this when you pull a lever somewhere in a bigger room.
This shit belongs in Tomb Raider.
True, yeah.
You know?
I made it through.
Yay.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.